guys, Jenny with On Fire Fit, and I am doing my update on my mindfulness year, my use it or lose it year, my no buy year, my project pan year. So I know some of my newer subscribers mostly come for the high heel videos, but I have kind of a diverse interest of things in my life. One thing is I love budget kind of stuff. I'm really into nutrition kind of stuff. I'm also kind of one of these people that loves to use what I have. I love making plans and trying to implement those plans and things like that. So you're going to see a little mixture of different things that I like and that are a part of my life. And so that is what we're talking about today. So no high heels today, but this is something where it's more practical. So as I started off this year, I was really in the mindset of not buying anything that I don't need and really being mindful with the things that I do have, using them up, as well as not buying more things to add to the situation. Now, we've had a little shift in a couple areas, mainly because of the virus situation, in that I tend to do a lot of what I call, or is a name out there in the community called, shelf cooking, meaning that you use what you have in your pantry and you don't have a huge stockpile typically, or at least you're kind of being mindful of not having excess. But given this situation where people are really being encouraged to stay home, we did need to stock up. So in certain things with like food related items, I did stock up more. So my grocery budget was really not what I normally would do. Lately, I have really been focusing on what Jordan Page from FunCheaperFree.com talks about, and that is the food budget, which is usually one of the areas that you are able to kind of control better, and it can get really out of control, or you can really kind of keep it within some good boundaries and use the extra money for things that you really want, vacations, paying down debt, what have you. Well, in our case, we try to live off of about $400 a month for a family of 4. Now, that didn't work going into a quarantine situation when you have to stockpile, not being sure if you're going to be able to get all the things that you need. So that budget sort of slipped away from me this past month. But the good thing is I am kind of back to where I need to be as far as starting now. I'm going to be using more of what I have. I'm going to keep some stockpile, but it looks like things are starting to lighten up a little bit. So I'm also finding a lot more things in the store than I did at the very beginning. So I think for you, if you feel like you've already sort of lost your New Year momentum, if you did any of this along with me, you can definitely just restart right now. I mean, life happens and we have to adjust, but that doesn't mean that we just let the plate keep spinning out of control the rest of the year. We just say, okay, I'm going to regroup right now, and what can I do, and where can I get some control and get a handle on things? One of the areas that I've been pretty good about, I did end up buying a book that my daughter and I can read, and I think it was good just for the two of us. And then I have really plowed through a lot of my books. So it may seem like a lot, at least it is for me compared to what I normally would read, but I made my plan of how many pages a day I wanted to read. And then after that, I would go and do my zone out, watch a YouTube video kind of a deal. So it was good because I've been learning a lot, and I really wanted to read some of these books, but just never really made the time for it. So I'm just going to kind of go through the books and where I got them from. So this book is from my friend Melissa. I had gone to a retreat in August of 2018, and she graced me with this book. And it's really a good book. It talks about different ways for you to pray, and it's by Robert Harris. And it was really good. I was surprised by all the good things that I don't know. I don't think he's an author that, is one of those people that you have heard of or whatever, but really a lot of good stuff. And a lot of what it ends up being is that no matter how you're praying, that's all that matters, is that you are. But he gives you all different kinds of suggestions, so I really like that one. My dear friend Karen sent me this Praying Through book. I really liked this. Jarrett Stevens, he's a pastor, and he gave some great tips on how to implement prayer and being mindful and kind of still. And so this was a good book I read through. All right, I went to a Christian conference, and Sean Bowles was the speaker, and he gave out one of his books at that conference, and this is called Modern Prophets. So I grew up in a really conservative church upbringing, I would say. Not ultra conservative, but just more conservative. We never talked about prophets. I mean, except for whatever the Old Testament is. And I really like how he explains this, because sometimes I feel like we can go the other direction and we call everybody a prophet. And really a lot of what he's talking about is that when we are extending what we believe is God's heart towards people, we are acting in kind of like a prophet role. So we are actually loving people the way that we see that God wants us to love them. He talks about a lot of different things regarding that. And, there are still modern day prophets, but a lot of it is about just extending God's heart to people. So especially if I'm having a kind of a conflict with somebody, or I just don't see eye to eye with them, if I really try to see them through God's eyes, it's very different in how I respond to them. And because of that, that's kind of the idea of being like a prophet. You can't be a self-proclaimed prophet, so I'm not trying to go into that whole thing, but you're basically trying to look at God's heart, how he would see that person and love them that way. And that is very biblical. So, okay, this one I would recommend for anybody and everybody. In fact, I've already thought about people that I would send this to for their birthdays and stuff like that. Power in the Promises by Nick Harrison. There's something about the way he did this. He goes through categories of like potential issues: employment, faith, heaven, persecution, rejection, let's see what else, tragedy, unanswered prayer. And then he gives Bible verses. He gives a truth that you can say out loud, and then you pray the promise. And it is so cool. Like, it really is a good one as like a reference, so that when you're going through something, go back to this and say the things out loud. Really loved this, so I would recommend that for sure. Okay, this is kind of a mind blower for me, because these usually take me a long time to go through. I did 2 different devotion series. I did Hosea, which any of you that have been around with me for a while know that this is my book of the Bible with God. He brings me back to Hosea all the time. And a lot of it has to do with just the fact that in the wilderness is when God really speaks to you. And that's kind of been the verse that jumps out at me all the time from Hosea, is that he takes you into the wilderness to express his love to you and to call you his own. And it's because you're in the wilderness that you're able to hear. And it's just such a beautiful book of the Bible. On the surface, it looks a little bit edgy because Hosea is asked to marry a adulterous woman. But the story is really of God's love for his people, and how even though they make horrible mistakes and basically committing adultery against God, that he just keeps pulling them back and loving them and treats them as if they were a pure bride and not having any flaw. Amazing. So this was really good. It's written by Jennifer Rothschild, and she, just her own story, being blind and writing Bible studies. I mean, come on. If any of us feel like we have an excuse to not pursue our purpose, all you have to do is think about somebody who's blind writing Bible studies. I'm like, she's amazing. That's amazing. It's so inspiring. So the other one that I did was Living Free by Beth Moore. And I had done the other study of hers a long time ago called Breaking Free, and it was really good. This one, I think, is supposed to be like a follow-up. Awesome. Great. Just self-reflection and learning and growing and just, really thinking about yourself. Really loved it. I got these at Lifeway. Okay, so now on to less deep things. So I forgot to save my bottles of food things that I used up. I think I used up my Worcestershire sauce. Is that even how you say that word? One of those things where it's like, do those things expire eventually? I think they do, but you don't want to just keep these things in your cabinet forever. And so looking for recipes where I can use things up. I believe that was the only food item. And then I think I only have one hair item and one face item. We've used up things like face wash, but I don't really count that. I count these things where I have duplicates or I've had them forever. And I'm like, I need to just use these suckers up. This one, you'll be very happy to know that because you don't consume it, you won't be bashing me for having had this hair product for the last 10 years, I think. Probably about 10 years. It's a hair serum. It's a Zero Frizz by Schwarzkopf. You have no idea. It's like when I used this up, I thought, now my life can begin. Oh my gosh, I've had that on the shelf for so long. Partly because I didn't know really how to use it. So a little goes a long way. If you use too much, it makes your hair look greasy. So what I ended up doing is I have a lightweight leave-in conditioner. So after I would wash my hair, I cannot just let my hair air dry. I have so much hair, and this is me curling it. If you see me without any curling, you pretend that it's not me because, okay, we're going down a little rabbit hole here. I was working and I had my laptop open and I accidentally called somebody who ended up seeing me with my hair undone and no makeup on. I was like, oh wow, this was not exactly what I had in mind. It was all accidental. Anyway, so back to the story. You might want this if you have crazy hair like I do. What I did is I took the leave-in conditioner. It's kind of a lightweight one, and since I have such thick hair, I can use heavier. But I took that, I squirt some of that lightweight conditioner, and then I would just squirt like maybe a pea size of this, because it's really oily, and mix it together, and then work it into the ends of my hair. Well, because of the size of the bottle, and you only use a pea size at a time, now we know why it took me so long. But I am so glad. Now, would I buy it again? I probably would actually, but now that it's taken me 10 years to use it, I feel like I don't want to ever see it again. But it was actually good. So I don't know. I think it's good because I finally figured out how to use it. So here's my point. We have a lot of stuff in our house and we might just look past it because we don't really know. We know we spent good money on it and we don't want to waste it, but we don't really know how to use it, whether it's an ingredient, whether it's an item of clothes in your closet, whether it's a hair product, whether it's a makeup product, whatever. We don't really know what to do with it. And so you sort of just look past it and then you keep buying other things that really, if you learned how to use what you have, or get rid of it, give it to someone. If you're not going to use it now, you're not going to use it unless you figure out how to use it, what to do. So with clothes, figure out an outfit that you could wear with it. If you really insist on keeping it, then do you need a different item to make it work? So don't just keep it in your closet knowing that you have no way to wear it right now. Find a way to make it work. Find the item that needs to go with it to coordinate or whatever. For me, figure out what is actually going to work. You can YouTube how to use products. You can look up recipes for ingredients that you don't know what to do with. So the idea is to try to use what you have, and if not, lose it. Get it out of there. Okay? Last one, which really, I don't know. This one I hesitate to even put in the use it or lose it because it's not something I've had around for a while and we were consistent with using it. It's the Ordinary, and it's the Moroccan argan oil. And we use that on our face, and it's a nice little serum. It comes like in a little dropper, and just like a drop or two will do, you know, and you kind of rub it into your hands, warm it up a little bit, and then dab it around. That one was not a challenge to use up because it's almost like face lotion. So those are my items for this go around. Now, my other angle with mindfulness is being mindful with the food we're eating. And I know that a lot of people are having a bigger issue than ever with eating because we're trapped at home. So you're always around your kitchen. So it's an even more important time to be really mindful. Take your meal time, turn off the TV, leave your phone in the other room, sit down, taste your food, notice if you're hungry, notice if you're full, and then eat if you're hungry, and don't if you're not. It's pretty simple, but start tasting your food. And then if you're like, you know what, I've been eating all this bland food forever, then start researching some recipes, come up with some creative ways to make that food that will be more appealing. Whatever the case is, now we have an opportunity to really kind of get some self-evaluation of what we're doing. We have spent a lot of time being mindless, so mindfulness will change your life. So anyway, I hope that you are doing something in this area. I would love to hear about it. We're going to have some more videos like this. I'm going to be talking more about finances and food and faith and, of course, more high heels. But until the next time I see you, thanks for being with me, and I hope that you are living your life on fire.